Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shootaround. I am the only host of this podcast, Rudy Saint-Claire, and joining me, as is tradition, above me is the legendary AlexHoops, as well as the one and only Rusty Buckets. Fellas, we doing okay today?
Doing great.
You've hung out with me all day. You know that's not. No, I'm not.
Look. Okay, I have a certain muscle memory with kicking off the pod where I am polite and ask everyone how they are doing, regardless of if I know already or not. But today we're going to be covering the start of the NBA season. Premier week was pretty good. You know, most teams have played a few games already, so we got a little bit of analysis to be doing. In the title and thumbnail today, we're talking about the MVP race already beginning. Maybe it's changed by the time this video is being watched by you at home. But if you are watching at home, be sure to subscribe or subscribe to us on audio platforms. Get us live on, or not live on also Rusty Buckets if you're listening at home on audio platforms already. You know the drill. Whatever. Fellas, it's been 10 days. A little rusty, but
that's my
Dare I say Rusty Buckets?
Yeah, I'm a little Rusty Buckets today. That's why we're starting off with Alex. And your team lost to the Nuggets last night, but otherwise it looked pretty good. Is the Thunder a rusty team, or are they as good as everyone seemed to predict going into this season?
I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to go through the growing pains that young teams go through where they're like taking the next step. And like playing the Nuggets this early on in the season, I think is a good thing because you need to see that as like a benchmark of where you are. Like, how do you compare to the reigning champs? And not just like, it's one thing to be the reigning champs. It's another thing to be the Nuggets, which look like one of the best teams we've seen in a really long time. And the fact that there were times during that game where we kind of just looked hopeless. It's like, oh, okay, we're good, but there's plenty of room to grow still. The big thing to me was during the Cavs game, we were relying pretty heavily on just like Shea's going to make really tough shots. And like, that's going to carry you so far. But at a certain point, you have to have stuff to fall back on. And I know Jokic is Jokic, Jamal Murray's Jamal Murray, Michael Porter. That team is who they are. But they should not have looked as bad as they did on the offensive end. The defense, I'm like, the Nuggets were making ridiculous shots, and I don't know how much of the game you guys watched, but there were at least a dozen threes that they shot that like got some of the luckiest bounces I've seen, which you can't bank on teams not getting those lucky bounces. That's ridiculous. But I think a few shots fall a little bit differently, and that loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it was. But ultimately, I think it's a good thing that they have this bad of a loss this early to be like, oh, you know, we got a long ways to go. We are not done yet. We're not here just because we're here.
I felt like, specifically in the Nuggets game, that the defense was pretty good. Like, as you said, there was just some Nuggets offense being ridiculous and nothing you can do about it plays. But like otherwise, I think they defended them well enough. It ultimately came down to the offense being a little bit more bare bones than I think you would like. A little bit too simplistic.
Yeah, that's one of my gripes with OKC is, and it was like this last year. It was just, you can't just have Shea bring the ball up the floor and somebody sets a screen for him like at half court. You need more than that. You need actual X's and O's. You need actual plays being ran. You need ball movement. You need off-ball screens. You need all sorts of stuff happening. It can't just four guys standing on the perimeter waiting for Shea to do something. He's going to be able to create advantages. We know that, but you know, not just when he's on the floor. When he's off the floor, you need something in place. And part of this is figuring out what the lineups are going to look like. It's one of those things that's going to be an ongoing process where what players work best in the bench unit and what players work best when Shea's not on the floor and who do they need to put alongside him. And that's just going to take time to figure out. But with a simplistic offense like they've been running, you can't get by with that. You're going to need more. No team wins with one guy doing everything.
What was that stat referring to drives with the Thunder? They're like head and shoulders above every other team in the NBA in terms of the frequency of drives to the paint that they have.
Yeah, last year they drove more than any other team in the entire NBA, and they got points off of drives more than any other team in the NBA. It's not even remotely close, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, typically if you're driving, you're generating theoretically high percentage looks, or you're creating advantages for guys elsewhere. But, what is being done to create those drives is my bigger question. How are they creating those? Are they, running actions for guys to curl off of screens and then drive to the basket? Or is it just one guy at the beginning of the possession with the ball in his hands driving and hoping something can happen?
Yeah, sometimes it definitely feels like driving for driving's sake. It kind of reminds me in a way of college basketball. It's kind of something I've always complained about with college basketball, is that it's just relentless drive and kick over and over again with no actual plan or very few advantages created. Obviously, this is NBA players with NBA level shot creating and all that, so it's not quite the same. But there was definitely quite a bit of redundancy, and I think the offense could definitely stand to have a little bit more versatility. I especially feel like, sorry if it's echoey in here, because now as I'm talking, I'm really hearing it. But maybe the mic's not picking it up, but I am. But like guys like Chet and J-Dub, like, cutting at the right time and like really taking advantage of things like that would be great. But it really seems like the team is really living and dying by what SGA brings to the table. And obviously in that Nuggets game, he did not bring his best performance to the table. I believe he was 0 for 9 in the first half.
Yeah. And we're half criticizing, half not criticizing Shai. Like, we're saying that he is the backbone of the offense, which he definitely is. But that does not mean that he is without flaw. There were several times during the game where something that Chet is really, really good at is slipping screens. It was something he was fantastic at in college. It's something that he's shown he's already really good at in the NBA. Is, anytime the Nuggets were hedging quite a bit, which that's typically, you'll see the Nuggets do that a lot. They hedge a lot compared to what a lot of other teams do, which is just, traditional drop coverage. And with Chet, when you have a team hedging the pick and roll like the Nuggets were doing, that leaves a ton of slipped screens for Chet, where he's just in completely open space in the paint. And something that kind of frustrated me with Shai is he wasn't, I don't know if he didn't want to make that pass. I don't know if he's incapable of making that pass. I don't think he is. But they need to get to the point where they're making that pass to Chet on that short roll where teams are hedging the pick and roll. Shai's trapped. They've got Chet open in space. Get him the ball, because, help defense may slide over from somewhere else on the court, but Chet is a good enough of a passer that he's going to be able to find whoever is open now. And then, bam, in theory, you've got a decent look off of that already. And so this is partially just this team is new to each other, and they need to build chemistry, and they need to work out the kinks. They're going to be fine. I think this game was a wake-up call that kind of showed where they're at, and some of the lofty expectations people had where they're like, they're going to be a top 3 seed this year. It's like, okay, there's flaws. They got to work things out a little bit.
Yeah. I definitely, like you say, like some growing pains and stuff. Like SGA is probably not used to like looking for a big slipping on the screen. It's probably not something that he's dealt with too much. Part of me wonders with Chet if like the tendency to slip is also just because he cannot handle the contact of a screen all the time. But whatever is effective, and there were definitely times where advantages were created and not taken advantage of. So the offense is the real thing I have concerns with for OKC. But, to bring it back to the defense, I think with Chet there and with everybody else otherwise being solid to pretty good on that end, like OKC is definitely going to be a top 10 defense, assuming that everyone remains healthy.
Yeah. And the discussion about Chet getting, bodied by Jokic, if you watched the game, Jokic wasn't really doing anything different than what he normally does. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's a bunch of defenders that you can throw in place of Chet in that game, and Jokic still has the exact same stat line.
Yeah, I don't think
he's Jokic.
I don't think that 30 extra pounds of muscle was going to change that outcome. Like, it was mostly touch shots.
Yeah.
It's not like
or fat. Jokic said he needs to get fatter.
Yeah, well, it's not like he shoved him into the basket and just drop step layup every time. Like he got to his spots as he always does. Not much different.
Yeah, and it is what it is. That discussion's never going to go away. It's going to be prevalent throughout his entire career.
Honestly, yeah, I really think people way overrate that kind of stuff. Like, players can be super scrawny and super effective. It's not a death sentence. It's not a guarantee that you can't play center. Evan Mobley can play center, and he's a twig. Kevin Garnett could play center. He liked to play power forward, but he very well could have. It's not really that big of an issue, especially when you're that height and your arms are that long. It's hard to not look like a twig. He could put on 40 pounds and still look pretty twig-esque.
Speaking of Evan Mobley, see anything in that Cavs game that the Thunder had after the Bulls game? Game 2, we've been talking about Game 3 versus the Nuggets, but Game 2, any takeaways other than, look, Donovan Mitchell can outscore SGA head-to-head? Like, y'all won by 3, I think. Anything that you
did they have like a crazy close to that fourth quarter to win the game? Because I only watched the highlights of that one.
Yeah, they were down
straight threes.
They were down relatively, a decent margin. It wasn't. It did not feel like a close game the entire game, and then all of a sudden the fourth quarter rolls around and things started going how they wanted it to go. But I mean, even. I think it was less about OKC played a very, very good basketball game. To me, my big takeaway from that game was the Cavs definitely need Garland because they don't have a real table setter on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Mitchell, I think Donovan Mitchell is a fine playmaker, but he should not be your only playmaker. And if he is the best playmaker on your team, unless you have a very, very dynamic offense, you're going to struggle. And Garland really does a lot for them in that regard.
He's definitely more of a secondary playmaker. I also saw some people making points about Jarrett Allen and how important actually connecting on screens is when that's not something that Evan Mobley does all that well. Evan did have a very good game. I don't remember who it was against. We had 30-something points. I don't know if that was against y'all, but let's move on to, we can talk about the Bulls game real quick to transition to talking about the Bulls because my, what a shit show they have been so far.
Yeah, the Thunder opened the season to kick the Bulls' ass.
Yes.
Players only meeting was called.
Yeah, back when the season schedule was announced, Connor made some post about that being the first game of OKC season. Connor 3-cone for those at home. And I literally said, congrats on your starting the season with a W. And here comes the prophecy. It's true. This tweet's interesting. I'll read it for everybody. Billy Donovan says, when he walked into the Bulls locker room tonight, players were already in heated conversations. He asked if they wanted him to leave. He wanted him to leave to handle conflict. I thought it was
if the players wanted him to leave in order to allow them to handle their own conflict. That's what that sentence is saying. It's a little bit poorly written.
Yeah, that's some bitch made shit. Damn, you're just gonna let your players roll over you like that? You're not
walking in the locker room. Ooh, it seems like you guys are already doing something in here. You all want me to leave?
Yeah.
I should go. I should go.
I don't know if that's the role of a coach, man. I think you're supposed to go in there and coach them. Yeah, embracing conflict is nice, but if like all you have is conflict because you suck,
Yeah,
how are you having
the players said yes. They're like, yes, please leave. This is
yeah,
a
how are you
players-only meeting
having how are you having a players only meeting after your first fucking game? And I gotta say, dude, I don't know if I've ever heard the phrase players only meeting more than with this specific group of Bulls players. I feel like they have like 5 of them a season, and it's ridiculous. It's like the roster is just poorly constructed, and it's very, very simple. They have a very good defense because Billy Donovan is a good defensive coach. He's not a good offensive coach, and the personnel on this team has way too many similar tendencies and similar areas they want to operate in on the floor. Like something like Patrick Williams having like a mid-range pull-up, that's something that could potentially be intriguing on another team. But on the Chicago Bulls, I'm like, we don't need another dude taking mid-range pull-ups.
Yeah.
We have enough of that as it is. Bottom 5 in free throw attempts, bottom 5 in restricted area attempts, bottom 1 at 3-point attempts. If you're only going to take mid-range pull-ups, your offense is going to suck. There is no workaround for that. If all of your players are going to default to that, that's what's going to happen. You have too many players who do the same shit all the time, and it's a recipe for failure. And then we sit here and go, well, technically there's talent here, so they're supposed to be a good team. But if the talent's redundant, it does not matter. You need skill sets that complement each other, not skill sets that are overlapping.
Yeah. I saw a clip that I think showed a big flaw in Chicago's offense that I thought was really interesting. And it was multiple clips, but I'm thinking of one in particular. But Vooch was posting up and DeMar was like, they ran like an empty corner pick and roll, and it was DeMar and Vooch, and Vooch rolls like you're supposed to do. Like if DeMar's driving off of this screen, you want to create space for him, but he drove and then he starts posting up or trying to post up while DeMar is like driving. And it's like, all you did was clog the space. He doesn't have anything to work with now, because not only does he have his defender to work with to try and get by, now he has your defenders right there. And then also you're there taking up space, Vooch. You're in his way. He needs to be able to get somewhere, and you just minimize the amount of space that he has. And that kind of stuff is like, I get it from like a young team or like a new team that was recently assembled, but they've been playing together far too long at this point for stuff like that to be happening. Like there needs to be some sort of chemistry, or something needs to be worked on in practice where like, hey, if y'all are going to do something like this, run an empty corner pick and roll, then Vooch, you got to clear out, go to the weak side dunker spot when he's driving. That's what good role men do. And one of the guys we're going to talk about, Derek Lively, he does that very, very well. And seeing that a veteran center like Vooch isn't doing that, it's like, you're not nearly good enough of a post player to be demanding the ball in the post like that. It just doesn't make sense that this is something that no one seems to be on the same page with.
It's reminiscent of the Dwight Howard issue way back in the day, especially when he went to the Rockets. He just demanded post touches when he wasn't a good enough post player.
Can you do me a favor and bring up this comment that says wide open 15-footers are more efficient than threes, even off of the dribble for most players? That's not true. That's just not even close to true.
I know the math off the top of my head.
It's not.
even 65% shooting, or even 60% shooting on a wide open 15-footer is only getting you like 1.05 points per shot, and then a 34% 3-point shot is getting you like 1.1 points per shot. So it's still more efficient to take the three than it is to take the wide open 15-footer.
Yeah. And there's another good point from, I guess, Ardo's is his name over here. How many 15-footers are wide open? Not many. Not many. Mid-range shots are almost always off of the dribble pull-up shots because that's just kind of like the flow of the offense. That's how it goes.
Yeah. And while we're bringing up chats, I neglected to see this super chat earlier. Timon gave us 7 Canadian smackaroos. If the Nuggets keep getting quality minutes from their bench, I don't think anyone beats them east or west. So quickly, are the Nuggets still the favorite, or are they more the favorite than they were before?
I personally think that the young players that they have on their bench that are kind of showing out right now, like Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, Zeke Naji has looked good at times. If they are good, this team is better than the one last year.
Yeah, it's better, and like given how many of those guys are young, it's like this is a team that can be together for the long haul.
Yeah, they're better for a long time.
Yeah. I will say I have my concerns about the Bucks after that loss to the Hawks. Of course, Dame scoring 3 points is not going to be a regular occurrence. However, I do have a lot of concerns about them, and seeing especially how thoroughly the Nuggets just fucked up OKC when I thought OKC was looking very good after those first two. I feel pretty strongly about the Nuggets. If they got real bench depth, I'm taking them over the Bucks.
Yeah, and like the defending champs, to me, it's hard to not have them as the favorite.
Yeah, but thank you, Timon, for your 7 Canadian dollars. Do appreciate your donation, giving us a little bit of room to talk more about the Nuggets, which we always love to do in this podcast for some reason. But getting back to your Bulls, Jacob, following their players-only meeting after one game of the season, Zach LaVine scored 51 of the Bulls' 102 points versus the Pistons in a 16-point loss. He literally scored half the team's points, and they lost by 16. Fortunately, you did manage to scrape out a win against the Raps in overtime, even though, if I recall correctly, DeMar DeRozan was trying his hardest to lose that game in the final minutes after making a crazy-ass run.
Like the Raptors were trying their best to lose the game too, so they just ultimately were better at being a fucking waste of space.
Yeah, so morally, you're at 0-3 right now, but technically you have a victory under your team's belt.
Look,
do you need therapy?
No. This is
not for this.
No. Well, yes. This is actually beautiful to me. This is exactly what I want to happen. I want a disaster. I want Zach to put up 50 and them still lose, because that shit will make players unsettled and ask for trades. There's already a huge gap between what DeMar DeRozan wants and the Bulls want in terms of an extension. I'm hoping that bleeds over to him being traded at the deadline, and then everybody else follows suit. And Zach having that 51 points, because I'm a Bulls fan, I'm so tied up specifically in like the personal nature of being a fan of a team. Whenever I'm looking at other teams, like the Toronto Raptors, for example, I'm like angry for the players on that team that are wasting their fucking time when they could be on another organization that uses their talents more effectively, instead of just being a 41-win team every year. And like, who gives a shit? Zach having that 50 piece, I was like, oh yeah, Zach LaVine is still a good player. I know I give him shit all the time because he's on my team, but like, he's a good player who deserves to be in a situation that can utilize his skill set to not lose by 16 to the Pistons when you score 50. But the thing is, like, yeah, Zach can score half of the team's points, but he had to score half of the team's points because nothing fucking else was happening on offense. So, like, I can't even, like, fully. It's not like there was an otherwise decent offense happening plus Zach went off. It was like Zach was going off because there was nothing else that could possibly keep them in the game.
I want to add that while he was going off, he did not pick up a single assist, so he had a 50-burger with no assist. The last player to score at least 49 points in a game while maintaining 0 assists was also Zach LaVine. It was 2019, right around this time of the year, about a month later, so 3 years and 11 months ago. He did basically the same exact thing. Except in that one, they won. They won against Charlotte by 1
that
point.
Was the best game of his career. That's when he had 13 threes, including the game-winning fadeaway 3.
Correct.
Yeah.
Was that the Charlotte game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That game was wild.
Dude, I turned it off. The last couple of minutes because we were obviously going to lose, and then it didn't happen. But yeah,
other players to do this since the year 2000 include Klay Thompson in 2018, Isaiah Thomas in 2016, Carmelo Anthony got 62 and no assists back in 2014. Kevin Love also did it. Carmelo did it again with 50 in 2011, and you'll never guess, Michael Redd got 57 with no assists in November in 2006.
For some reason, I thought the name Michael Redd when you said who was the last person to do it. Who is Zach LaVine if not Carmelo Anthony, but a shooting guard?
Right. Just if Michael Redd was hot, that's Zach LaVine. But the Pistons
physically hot. Okay, I thought you just meant like on fire.
No. But the Pistons just blew you guys out despite him. Real quick though, we got 14 Canadian dollars from
up with
Gordon
our Canadian
Glasner.
Brothers coming through.
Yeah, salute to Canada. He says a lot of people said last year that no matter how good the Nuggets were, nobody was afraid of them. Do you think that's changed? More Nuggets fodder from Canada. Thank you for your donation. Are people scared of the Nuggets?
I mean, winning a title is a great way to get people to shut the fuck up about dumb shit like that. Yeah.
Not the Lakers though. The Lakers were like, we're gonna ruin their ring night, and then the Nuggets just smacked them around for 4 quarters.
Man. The people just don't like a team and then determine that means that no one else around the league respects them, and that's just not true. I promise you all these coaches are game planning hard for the Nuggets because they have to. You can't just ignore the team that has a very strong chance at winning a title just because NBA Twitter told you to.
Yeah. I think every single team looks at the Nuggets now and they're like, oh crap, I have to bring my A game for this.
Yeah.
But thank you, Gordon, for the donation. Do appreciate it very much.
Front offices think Shea season 25 or whatever. It's that's not how it actually goes. When franchises see another franchise be successful, they try to copy the blueprint and see what they can do to beat them, because that's what the sport's about.
Yeah. But after watching Zach LaVine score half the points, Pistons still got the win. Jacob, as I remember, you were more intrigued with the Pistons after that game than your own team.
Yeah, honestly, it was probably the most enjoyable Bulls game I had watched in quite a while because I wanted them to lose, and they did. Zach LaVine couldn't miss a shot, which was entertaining. And then the Pistons core looked amazing. And I really like a lot of that roster. Specifically Cade, Duren, and Thompson. I'll tell you, Thompson came in the game in the fourth quarter, started guarding Zach LaVine, and shit wasn't so sweet after that. I think he guarded him a few possessions before that, but the moment that he decided to lock in and really try hard, he completely Zach scored 2 points on him after that for the last 9 minutes of the game.
Friend of the show, Noah Terranova, I think he said it about Asar. I don't know. He might have also said it about Amin Thompson, but he said, I think it was something along the lines of Asar is the most impactful 37% shooter you'll see in the NBA right now. And I was like, yeah, He can't make a shot, but dang, he can do literally everything else really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully
What are
the shot comes around, but
real quickly, where do the Thompson twins fall on your NBA rookie watch radar? Are they similarly exciting as the 2 7+ footers that have gotten all the attention as far as rookies, or are they in a tier below?
I mean, a man needs to get playing time before we can really say much about him, because it seems like he's going to be kind of a victim of the depth in Houston. I use that generously.
Dylan Brooks' latest victim. But Jalen Duren's been going off for the Pistons. I know we kind of detoured a little bit away from them.
Dude, I believed quite a bit in Jalen Duren, but he's exceeding my pretty already high expectations. Like these numbers out of a 19-year-old center. Like this guy was born in 2003, man.
18 points a game, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, quite a few
2.7
blocks.
2.7.
Yeah. His pie, whatever that advanced stat the NBA
player
made up
impact
is.
Estimate.
Yeah, big.
He's
pie.
also he's shooting
80%
from the field.
Few turnovers, but whatever. It doesn't matter. He's getting 3.5 stocks. I mean, the dude's going off. It's incredible that he slipped all the way to 13th in the draft. Still one of the youngest players in the league. Memphis legend, apparently. Didn't know that about him until right now.
Yeah. Do you guys want to hear a wild stat about Duren? I tweeted it. Jalen Duren, so far this season, has made 18 dunks through 3 games. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that puts him on pace to record 492 dunks this season. Now, that number may not mean much to you, but if you go back through the last decade,
a little bit.
If you go through the last decade of dunk leaders, the only player to record 300 dunks in a season is Rudy Gobert. It happened once in 2019. So not only is 300 dunks for Duren this year, 300 dunks for Duren, get it trending, he's on pace to obliterate that and get like 400 dunks. That's insane.
Steph Curry shit.
That's like genuinely unheard of.
Stephen Curry of dunks.
Jalen Duren's changing the game as we know it, reminding everyone that the dunk is the most efficient play in basketball.
He's changing the game 80%. By bringing it back. Like this is he's for all intents and purposes a pretty.
My audio just cut out.
Yeah, your audio cut out for me too, Jacob. I couldn't tell if that was my stream fucking up or not.
Oh, do I sound good?
Oh yeah, yeah. You're talking.
Yeah, why'd you make that noise though? You just went.
No, I said I was saying hello.
Oh. It came out more like a hell moan.
Yeah, what I was saying is he's a very, very traditional type of center. I mean, he's doing a little bit more playmaking and like more, versatility on the perimeter defensively. But like for the most part, it's rebounding, getting dump off passes, alley oops, put back layups and dunks, and blocking shots. Center shit. He just does center shit remarkably well.
I'm curious now because I was looking at it for something I'm working on for the Mavericks. But pick and roll teams right now, I'm curious where they rank in the pick and roll, the Pistons, because of just how like unstoppable Duren has been. Well, they're top 10 in pick and roll man points per possession. Obviously, 3-game sample size isn't really a whole lot, so you can't put a ton of weight on that. But they're recording 1.3 points per possession on pick and roll man possessions, that's really good. I mean, the fact that they're going to have that as something they can lean on in their offense, something as simple as that, it's a good sign.
Yeah. Even if it does mean that someone like Jaden Ivey is kind of the odd man out there, being able to score so routinely off of a pick and roll is definitely a little bit more valuable than that guard depth that maybe they were looking to have with Ivy off the bench. Apparently, he's not been performing too well from what I've seen and heard. Haven't looked too much into it, but Jaden Ivey's supposed to be like a B plus Ja Morant type beat, and apparently he's going to be more like a oversized Nate Robinson.
What an interesting comparison. I don't know about that. I just think he's kind of misplaced with Detroit because I just don't like his fit with Cade Cunningham whatsoever. Secondary shot creation, but I don't know that a slasher is like not the first type of player I would think to point to, like, put that next to Cade. Like a slasher, that's exactly what he needs. Like probably other people that can space the floor really effectively and not just kind of can shoot.
Yeah. So far this season, averaging just a hair under 10 points a game, 1 rebound, 3 assists. His pie, for comparison, is about 6.
I want to establish this for future bringing ups of NBA.com. Player impact estimate, aka pie, is a terrible stat.
Yeah,
and should never be used.
And yet they do. So I got to read it. The number's on the screen.
Curse you, Adam Silver.
But yeah, and also only getting 20 minutes of action a night. What's real quick? What's maybe a good destination for Ivy if not the Pistons?
The Chicago Bulls when
That
they
would
blow
actually
up
be
the
pretty
team.
good. Who would you give up for?
Trade Zach LaVine to Detroit.
Fuck it, we ball. But from one exciting young center to another, we're gonna transition now into a little chat about Derek Lively, who's been lighting up the NBA, making the Mavericks look like a real contender. Derek Lively, the second of Duke, averaging 12.5 points on 6 rebounds. Not quite lighting it up the same way that Duren is, but he has had a very exciting rookie season to start. I believe he's shooting out of this world efficiency. Yeah, 91.7% from the field. He's barely missed over his first 2 games.
I think that literally means he's missed one shot.
Yeah, he's missed 1 or 2 shots, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No threes attempted yet, so definitely not a stretch big. But you want to talk about traditional bigs? Derek Lively.
Let's do it. Let's talk about. I'm going to nerd out for a second because when I've been working on a Derek Lively video, and he exemplified, and Duren also does. So this is more just using Derek Lively as the example and not saying, I'm not comparing the two right now. Derek Lively exemplifies a really interesting phenomenon and sort of a pendulum swinging that I've noticed in an opposite direction where the last 5 to 10 years of NBA basketball, it's been all about the bigs that can space the floor. Yes, you may be sacrificing in more traditional big man skill sets, but it's being made up for in the fact that this big man can stretch out and hit threes and it provides, space theoretically. Derek Lively is a really awesome center because he showcases how you can create space without shooting the basketball, how you can create space without even touching the basketball or being a threat to touch the basketball. Mm-hmm. And it's exemplified in whenever the Mavericks are running pick and rolls, whether it's with Luka, whether they're running Chicago actions with Kyrie or Tim Hardaway Jr. coming off of a pin down to receive a handoff so they can get into a pick and roll, whatever the case may be. If you watch him as a roller when he's in the pick and roll, he is not just conscious of where he needs to be to get a lob or where he's technically supposed to be so he can get a pocket pass on the short roll or anything like that. He's more focused on how do I create space for the guy that has the ball in their hand. So if you think about, if you're looking at a court right now and Derek Lively has the ball, he's giving a handoff to Tim Hardaway Jr. and they're on, say, kind of towards the right elbow. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is driving up the middle. Derek Lively is not just trying to put himself in a position where he can get a lob. He is thinking about, how is my defender angled towards Tim Hardaway Jr. in this scenario? how close is he to Tim Hardaway Jr.? If Derek Lively were to not roll as aggressively or as quickly, how much space between his defender and Tim Hardaway Jr. would there be? And he is always trying to put himself into a position where his defender doesn't have the ability to slide up and provide help on any shot at the rim or a floater. There were countless times during their season opener during the Spurs game where he wouldn't actually make contact with whoever was guarding the ball handler. Sohan was the guy in a lot of cases who was going to be fighting over these screens, but you would watch, if you watch the film, Derek Lively wouldn't even make contact screen.
Oh.
He would, am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay.
You're here.
Okay. He would always make sure that, okay, it's less about me getting Sohan caught up on the screen and more about making sure that whoever is coming off of this screen gets in front of Sohan and gets the angle, because that turns the pick and roll from having two defenders guarding the two offensive players that are involved in the action to turning it into two offensive players versus the one drop defender. In most cases, it was Zach Collins. And so Derek Lively knew, if I roll hard and fast, it's going to pull Zach Collins away from Tim Hardaway Jr. dribbling towards the paint, and it's going to give him more space to shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that would happen, it almost always generated a good look.
Yeah, and that's especially a valuable skill set to have, considering the slashing talent and shot creating talent that Dallas has. Like, the better job he can do at keeping his defender from helping, that's like, if you're allowing Luka and Kyrie to go one-on-one, doing your best to make sure it stays a one-on-one, that's going to be great offense all the time. And then, of course, he also is good at positioning himself for his own offense and lobs and dump-off passes. So, like, it's just like regularly there's a great option on the floor pretty much any time.
I think Derek Lively is a good example of like drafting for fit rather than drafting for top-end talent, because if the Mavericks grab the best guard available rather than Derek Lively with their pick, obviously they'd be in a much worse off spot, even if that guard happens to be someone who might turn out to be debatably better than Derek Lively. The fact that he fits so well with his team has really unlocked a lot of potential for them, maybe even taken them from kind of like the medium rare contender tier to like the well done medium well contender tier, you know, some nice brown meat. So Derek Lively's on-off numbers in just this 48-minute sample size, Alex, you tweeted this out, getting them a net rating of over 20 when he's on the floor, and a negative 7.41 net rating when he's off the floor. So clearly he's been pretty instrumental to them.
The defense doesn't take me by surprise that much, but like that, being able to be that much of a difference maker on offense as just a center who otherwise doesn't really have all that much offensive skill set, it's just more knowledge of being at the right place opens up so much.
Yeah, and this is not to diss Dwight Powell a ton, but I think it's a situation where Lively has really just solid instincts, and he knows where to be. He knows the timing of these things, and it works so well with their team. And this is another thing when we talk about drafting fit versus talent or upside. Another thing to consider is Derek Lively's 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So however good he is now already, he's going to be most likely way better in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So we're only scratching the surface. I mean, as he polishes his offensive game a little bit more, this guy's going to be the perfect pairing for Luka.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with Derek being as good as he is, I think Dallas has also looked pretty damn good to start this year. I was pretty high on Dallas going to this year upon like really inspecting their roster. How do we feel about them being like potentially in the contender category?
The problem is when you talk about who's a contender, you're always framing it against the Nuggets. And so let's hypothetically for a second take the Nuggets out of the equation. Just in a standard NBA season in a vacuum, what are the Mavericks right now? Are they a real contender or like they a pretender? And to me, depth-wise, I mean, you watch not just, what Derek Lively's been doing, but also what Grant Williams has been doing for them, what Derek Jones Jr. has occasionally shown he can do, what Josh Green is hopefully going to develop into. They actually are a little bit deeper of a roster than I think they've gotten credit for. They've definitely addressed some of their concerns, and they've got Luka Doncic. And to me, that's enough to make you a contender. If teams in the past around Luka were able to make the Western Conference Finals, then this team is a contender.
Yeah, like the roster around them when they made the conference finals was very specialized and like fit well enough and like was a very good defense around Luka. But like just in terms of like actual talent around him, this is easily the most talented roster he's been a part of, like bar none.
Yeah, sure. Luka Doncic right now averaging 41 points a game through just 2 games, of course. 11.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists. I mean, he's got to be the front runner for MVP at this point. Obviously, we're crazy early into the season, but if we had to end the season after one weekend, it's probably Luka taking it home.
If they're a top 3 seed, he wins MVP. Assuming he continues not, 41, 11.5, and 8.5. That's kind of, unprecedented. But production similar to this, if they're a top 3 seed, it's really hard to imagine he doesn't win MVP.
Timon gave us another couple of Canadian smackaroos to say that the Mavs should have traded for Anunoby, not Kyrie. How do we feel about that? I mean,
hot take. I think as a trade piece, it is much harder to acquire OG Anunoby than it is to acquire Kyrie.
Yeah, the price tag is probably pretty similar, and no denying that Kyrie is a better basketball player. Luka needed a little bit of help, someone else who can create their own shot and play make. So I'm not sure I agree with this one, Ty.
I don't even agree with that from the perspective of like trading for Kyrie was easier. Kyrie is still better than OG and still more of a ceiling raiser than OG is. Now you can argue like if Kyrie is going to do his Kyrie shit and be a problem for no reason, then yeah. But like OG would be great in Dallas, obviously, for a litany of reasons. But like, if you're calling upon someone that's not Luka to create offense, which as much as Luka is capable of, you can't have him do literally everything. I'd much rather it be Kyrie Irving than OG Anunoby.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's kind of diminishing returns. Like I think if they did hypothetically in this imaginary parallel universe trade for OG instead of Kyrie, I think we would still be in a situation where we're like the best they could trade for is OG Anunoby. Like it would have been a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, kind of like the Kyrie trade was. Like I definitely think Kyrie is he's a better basketball player than OG Anunoby. I don't think anyone will argue otherwise. Yeah. But if you're going to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, I'd rather the Band-Aid be Kyrie than OG, personally.
Yeah, and I also feel like that was like once they gave him the contract, it became riskier. But that was like a buy low and like hope for the best that it like really works out for you. And I think it can. I'm never going to feel like anything is all that safe with Kyrie until he's not been a problem for long enough. But, at the end of the day, and not to bring a Kevin Durant talking point into this, but the game's about getting buckets. And if you got a Luka level bucket and a Kyrie level bucket, you've gotten all the buckets you need. Then worry about the defense and the rebounding and versatility and all that. And they've done that, and they have the guys that seem to be able to do that, like Derek Lively, like Grant Williams, like Josh Green. You're finding that versatility in other players. I'd rather have all of that, around Kyrie than fucking OG.
Yeah. Timon followed up his message by saying, I mean, fit-wise, a 3-and-D guy with Luka who can take the tough assignments would be better suited than Kyrie. I totally understand where you're coming from, but I think ultimately Kyrie is just so good that we just can't ultimately agree with you. I mean, maybe
I feel like
speaking
Grant
on behalf of the
Williams
whole
and Josh
podcast
Green can
here.
do that.
Yeah.
For cheaper than OG, and you have Kyrie.
Maybe I'm tripping, but I feel like outside of like super marginal cases where we're talking DPOY caliber defense, the difference between a very good defender and a great defender in the NBA is not a difference that you want to make if the other option is getting someone like Kyrie, instead. Like upgrading from Josh Green to OG is a lot bigger of an upgrade or a lot smaller of an upgrade, from nothing to Kyrie.
Yeah, I could definitely
when
agree
it
with
comes
that.
to on-ball defenders, I agree. Off-ball defenders, it's a little bit different because I think off-ball defense is way more important than on-ball defense. But yes, I think what you're saying holds truth, where like upgrading your on-ball defense only moves the needle so much. Like that's not going to change your team fundamentally. It's going to make you a little bit better in one area. Whereas like a guy like Kyrie theoretically boosts your ceiling significantly more.
Yeah,
I gotta use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. I think you can get high level like defense and like perimeter defense, especially like pretty damn good perimeter defense, far easier than you can get super high level shot creation like you get out of Kyrie Irving. Like when you're like trying to assemble a team, the first thing you're trying to figure out is like the fundamental pillars of your offense. You should be focused on your defense before you're focused on your on your offense more than you're focused on your defense. Sorry, I flipped it in my head.
Yeah, easy to do.
Defense, you can get cheap role players that can play pretty good defense. Josh Green is an excellent perimeter defender, and they just signed him for like $12 million a year, which is nothing in the modern NBA. Similar amount of money for Grant Williams, who has a very big, solid frame and is a smart defender, and he can hit his 3-pointers. It's easier to like put your money and your energy and like your real like doing crazy GM shit into getting a high level, superstar level shot creation. And then you figure out the defense after, especially when you have a really good defensive coach like Jason Kidd.
Am I tripping, or did you just mishmash Derek Lively and Grant Williams into Derek Williams, the former top pick of the draft who ended up fizzling out? Because I swear to God, you just said Derek Williams.
I'm pretty sure I said Grant Williams, but maybe I didn't.
Maybe I'm just hyper fixated on Derek Williams deep down.
Yeah. You hear everything I say, Alex?
Yeah, I did.
You agree with my point of view?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. But moving on from the defense versus offense, Anunoby versus Kyrie topic. Thank you, Timon, for all of your contributions to this podcast.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of have to pee too.
Is it pee break hours? 1 hour in?
One of those pods.
I've been drinking a lot of water. I've been on my healthy shit, and this is the consequence.
Are you taking us with you right now? Oh, you're setting us down. That's what's happening.
That'd be crazy.
Just don't worry, guys.
Don't worry, guys. I'll still
be. Bathroom.
I'll be podding in the bathroom. Don't worry.
We did get a donation from Malt Vegas. Is that what that says? Sure is.
Malt Vegas. I don't know what that means, but it's funny.
Thank you for your $2, Malt Vegas. But they say Robert Williams would take the Mavs up a notch. I saw this from someone else in the chat earlier as well. Obviously, Robert Williams is a good defender, but is he enough of an upgrade that paying the price of whatever it costs to get him is worth it for the Mavericks? Would that elevate their contender status, or is that just kind of adding on top of their already pretty okay defensive foundation?
I'll be honest. I love Rob Williams. It's hard for me to buy his health at this point. Every season for a while now, he's at some point dealt with some sort of injury. And as great of a player as I think he is, it's hard with health, especially with a team like the
Mhm.
Mavs. They're kind of sparse as it is outside. I mean, I said earlier they have good depth. I mean, they have a solid 8-man rotation. That doesn't necessarily mean I think they have they can go 12 deep.
Mhm.
Eric Lively's going to be able to do a lot of the same stuff that Rob will do. On the same level defensively, no, probably not, at least not right now. But I think it's one of those trade-offs. Basketball is a game of trade-offs, and I think
Yeah.
you're trading off maybe less defense and Derek Lively for you have a just healthy player for longer, which he's a rookie. We don't know health-wise what he's going to be like.
Yeah. But presuming he would be more healthy than Robert Williams, because most players are more healthy than Robert Williams, I'd rather have a good defender who is regularly available over a great defender who is not regularly available.
Yeah.
Thank you, Malt Vegas, for your contribution to the show. Let's get into some MVP discussion. Really do what the thumbnail said that we were going to do and discuss the MVP race so far. What do you think is more likely, that Joel Embiid repeats as MVP or that Luka Doncic is going to get his first? We already pulled Luka's stats.
I'd like to take this one.
I mean, I'd like to take it too. So why don't we arm wrestle?
Rock, paper, scissors? No, just kidding. You go first.
Ain't nobody giving Embiid another MVP until he wins a legitimate playoff series.
I was going to say basically the exact same thing, in that I think he's going to get the Giannis treatment, where you're not getting another MVP until you win.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's fair or not, that's not my place to say. I'm just from the perspective of the voter base, that seems like historically that's what they do.
Yeah. When people say like the playoffs don't affect the MVP, the playoffs that happen after the MVP is given out don't affect the MVP. But the playoffs that happened before that shape your perception in the league as a player. And after how they lost last year to the Celtics, people are not looking at Embiid in the same light. They're like, all right, buddy, we've had enough of the 49-win Kawhi-less Raptors being the best team you've ever beaten in the playoffs. Do something a little bit more impressive, and then we'll talk about a second MVP.
Now, the bigger question to me here isn't just about Luka and Embiid. How much to you guys does Jokic factor into the conversation? Because coming off a championship, a lot of people would argue he should have won MVP last year. What do you think is the pulse on kind of does he get the makeup MVP? Which I say that, and it feels disrespectful to say that, because all things considered, Jokic is going to do what he does and probably put up MVP numbers again this year. But how much do you guys think he factors into the MVP race?
I mean, I think the way that Jokic is right now, the way that the Nuggets roster is right now, so long as everyone is healthy, he will have a significant MVP case every single year. It's just a matter of who would have the more interesting story, honestly. That's often what it comes down to.
The narrative variable. LeBron's favorite factor in MVP voting, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly do not. I think this could be a very good MVP race, though. And finally, one that's like not just the same three guys that it's always, which is Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. It's always them every single year.
No Steph Curry love from our resident Steph Curry stan, Rusty Buckets?
I mean, Steph getting another MVP at age 36 would go pretty hard. That said, I just don't know about that. I don't know if the Warriors are going to be a high enough seed in the West. I do think that they're better than they were last year. But I don't think they're going to be I think maximum they'd be the 3 seed.
Someone in the chat said, is Tatum a dark horse MVP? I would say no, personally. I think the Celtics are more known for their depth and their defense. Obviously, you know, they only have 6 really good NBA players. It's not like they have 8, 9, 10, 11. But even then, there's 6 really good NBA players.
6
very... It's like the Hawks back in the day, the one that the whole team won Player of the Week one time, or not
that
the whole
team.
Al
Horford was also a part of.
Yeah, Al Horford just has a career of being on really good teams.
Yeah, but
so for that reason, Tatum is not a dark horse MVP.
Their 5th man and sixth man is better than Damari Carroll and Dennis Schroeder, though. So
True.
see, it's an even better team than that. But I could see the argument of like, I don't know, the Celtics are more of a team than an individual. Like Tatum is no doubt the best player on that team, but like, I don't know, I view them more as a collective rather than like an individual.
Yeah. They'd have to
steering the
win
ship.
like 67 games to have Tatum really
Which-
be an MVP candidate.
I
for
honestly
me.
wouldn't be shocked if they did, to be like for real.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like he could win MVP theoretically, yes, but he's gonna get the like knock for being on a really good team. Which
Yeah.
whether that's fair or not, whatever. I still personally think as far as overall impact, it's hard to argue against anybody other than Jokic or argue for anybody other than Jokic. Just sheer impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Jokic for a while. Luka's going to make a convincing case. And honestly, I see a world where by the end of the year, we're sitting here saying, you know, arguing between the two in regards to their production and like really having to split hairs over like who's the more impactful player, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, as far as like how Tatum factors into that conversation, it's kind of like, well, look at the impact that Luka and Jokic have. How does Tatum's overall impact stack up to that? That being said, Tatum, as far as defense goes, is the more impactful defender between the two other guys that we've been talking about. But also, is his offense on a level that like the combined totality of his offense and defense puts him over the totality of Luka and Jokic on the offensive end? And now you can even argue Jokic on the defensive end is at bare minimum passable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd argue he's definitely better than passable on defense. He's a fine defender.
I think he's a solid B+ on defense.
I think between Luka, Steph, Jokic, Embiid, and Tatum, Tatum's the second best defender there. So you're not going to anchor any argument for an MVP case based on him being an outstanding defender. That would probably be more in the realm of Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid and Tatum would both take 60+ win seasons, or just the rest of the NBA being fucking mid and then being an outstanding 50+ team, 50 win team. But I'm taking Embiid every time over Tatum for MVP this season from what we've seen so far.
I don't agree.
I don't know if I would agree either.
I think if basically let's imagine this scenario. The Sixers win 59 games, 59, 60 games. Tyrese Maxey misses like the last month of the year, but the Sixers still only lose like a couple games during that stretch. And Joel Embiid puts up typical Joel Embiid numbers, which is historic efficiency on offense and great defense. If the Sixers have a phenomenal run this year, you gotta give him another MVP. You have to. It would be like Steph Curry at that time.
No,
when
you don't.
He had a great year and then had a better year.
You do not have to give him that MVP because people do not respect that kind of regular season production if it's only going to be in the regular season.
Yeah, didn't Giannis have a better season than he did the year he won it? Yeah, same thing happened to Giannis. Yes. He didn't get the MVP.
I want to make one more case for Embiid before I acknowledge this comment we just got. But shout out to Fast Break Breakfast tweeting this out. Embiid in a game which he was supposed to rest. Like he was getting clowned on Twitter for resting game 3 of the season, but he was listed as questionable (rest). And he ended up playing. Mm-hmm. In that first half, he went the fuck off. He had 24 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 blocks, and 2 steals. And as far as the data shows, he's the only player who's ever done that in a half before, presumably.
Since 1996.
Like that's a lot of history to just say ever.
It's only like 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, as long
only
as
25. It's very impressive. It's very
yes, absolutely.
I'm just saying, Joel Embiid. We talk a lot of shit about him. We're very pro Nuggets here. I don't want people to get the wrong idea and think that we don't respect his game. Personally, I think he's still,
I have nothing against Embiid. I'll get that clear.
But
I have always found him mildly annoying, but whatever. There's plenty of players that are mildly annoying.
Gordon
but I
giving us
genuinely
the sorry, I had to bring this up and cut you off. Gordon gave us 28 Canadian smackaroos, and that is why he gets to interrupt Rusty Buckets. Thank you for your donation very much. He says Jokic is now being recognized as a good defender. He's a historic offensive force and a brilliant offensive floor general. He's changing his basketball.
changing how basketball is played.
How basketball is played. Thank you. The other MVP candidates are just typical year candidates.
So I don't think I agree with the idea that he's changing how basketball is played, simply because to change how basketball is played, you need to have an archetype that is somewhat replicatable. And I mean all of this in a compliment to Jokic. Jokic is not an easy player to replicate. You can't just get what Jokic does. You can't just like develop a player to be that. Like that's very uncommon. His skill set is very, very uncommon. So to say that he's changing how basketball is played, he's doing stuff that we've never seen before, and the Nuggets are taking a very unique approach to what they're doing. But I don't necessarily think that he is fundamentally changing how teams approach the game.
Yeah, let me interject here. I disagree with that. Because I think, being a center that can do what Jokic can do has only happened one time, and that player's name is Nikola Jokic. However, Stephen Curry changed the game, and no one can shoot like Steph. It's not that, these players need to replicate it or get it to like exactly that level or even like super close to it, but rather people start to see the value of that skill set and try to implement it into the game more. And I think we're going to see passing big men and specifically just kind of everybody being more capable playmaking wise, becoming more and more of the precedent, just like with Steph. Like obviously nobody was going to be Steph, but Steph doing what he did brought more people towards the 3-point shot. Like I think passing from everybody, passing from big men, that is starting to bleed in with Jokic. I mean, I think like guys like Alperen Sengun existing, obviously not Jokic, but someone with that skill set's getting more attention than they probably would have 10 years ago.
I think I even saw some coaches going into this season, maybe just one coach, and I'm misremembering. But I saw at least one quote over the post or over the offseason that suggested that one of their big men, who is not known for being a playmaking hub, was going to start being used as a playmaking hub. I remember now. It was Jakob Poeltl. They said Jakob Poeltl was going to be an offensive hub for them this year. And I think that is
a little bit of passing chops, but
right. But playing through him, a la Jokic, is some evidence to suggest that Jokic is changing the game at least a little bit. At least a little bit. I believe you also had a second channel video where this is basically the thesis is that Jokic is changing the game, right, Jacob?
Yeah, like I thought that just like generally people are going to look for their bigs to be capable of passing and use bigs as an offensive hub more often. Not that it wasn't a thing before, like both the Gasol brothers did that quite a bit, but
that was kind of my point too. And I don't think that's the idea of using a big as a playmaking initiator is such a new, like, quote unquote unprecedented thing. I guess you can make the same argument with a guy like Steph, because people always list him as like the guy who changed the game with a 3-point line. But the difference to me there, when you look at how people perceive Steph changing the game versus how you can make the argument that Jokic is changing the game, the speed and dramaticness by which the game changed in such a short amount of time with Steph, I think that is just so unprecedented. Like the trend,
I don't think it will be the same for sure. Like it can't be that type of trajectory, because that will probably never, I don't think there will ever be an evolution of the sport more significant than what Steph did.
Right. Yeah. And to me, like you look at the revolution in offense post Steph Curry, I say post, he's still playing. I mean, post Steph Curry breakout.
Yeah.
Like the shot profiles by which teams were operating, like it was like 38% at the rim, 37% from the mid range, and like 30%, 29% from three. It was like just drastically different prior to Steph Curry's breakout. And then all of a sudden, teams are attempting, dang near 40% of their shots from three in the flip of a switch. And while you can take aspects of how Jokic plays and how the Nuggets have built their offense around that, it's also a situation where I don't think it fundamentally changed how teams are approaching the game, if that makes sense. There are aspects that can be drawn from, but you have to have a Jokic to be able to do that. So otherwise you're just like, I don't want to say a cheap copy, but you're just like seeing what elements you actually have the capability to use, but you can't really do the real thing.
Yeah, it's like maybe the rational perspective here, pardon my semi-centrism, is kind of between both of you guys' opinion, where we admit that there is a level of change, but we also own that it's not like a revolution. It's more of a refinement.
Yeah.
It's a small evolution.
It's a good way to put it.
It's not a new era has began. It's more like maybe we should incorporate this into our game a little bit more. Let's see what NBA coaching looks like the next few years and see if this is a fad or just something that gets integrated into NBA basketball for a while.
This isn't so much like discovering fire or how to make stone tools, and more so like making sandals.
Sandals is probably pretty big, but I see where you're coming from.
Right, but it's not on that level.
It wasn't until we closed the toe of the shoe where things started to really pick up for humanity. Famously, there's the historical perspective of pre-closed toe and post-closed toe humanity.
So to use a different analogy, hopefully can put it in a little bit more perspective. You can put stripes in your lawn with just a standard regular push mower. You don't need a fancy lawnmower to put stripes in your lawn. You just change directions every trip across the lawn. You'll get the stripes. But it's a lot easier to get those stripes if you have the real nice $4,000 zero-turn mower. And Jokic is the $4,000 zero-turn mower, baby.
I like your analogy better than the sandals one personally. But thank you, Gordon, for your very generous contributions to this podcast.
I'm not really big on mower metaphors personally, but
what can I say? I love lawn care.
We got a real landscaper in the house.
All right,
Jacob, you change your hair because the chat was pointing it out?
Dude, I can't listen. I've seen all you guys commenting on my hair. I got to tell you, it's at a very annoying length right now that I just don't know what to do with it. So you're just going to have to fucking deal with it, all right? I'm not happy.
For the record, I thought it looked fine. Yeah,
I thought it looked good,
It gives me flashbacks to, like, Justin Bieber in middle school and how much I hated boys who tried to have that haircut. So, like, I just don't want to look like that now.
Somebody said someone should landscape Rusty's hair.
All right, dog. Listen, I'm trying to grow it like shoulder length right now. It's just rough, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm with you there,
someone said that I looked like I looked like Jimmy Butler in preseason.
That's good.
That's a good roast. Let's get back to the MVP discussion. So we're eliminating Joel despite his excellent output through 3 games so far.
I wouldn't say eliminating, but it's unlikely.
It's unlikely
based on history, based on how voters approach the MVP race.
Yeah. We're Xing out Jason Tatum because if Embiid ain't getting it, Tatum ain't getting it. No way. At least in my opinion.
Yeah,
and so that really just leaves
only
Jokic and Doncic.
I feel like we haven't mentioned, and I'm surprised Alex hasn't brought him up. SGA probably has a real chance, I think.
So here is what I will say in regards to that. SGA is a spectacular player, but in order for him to get into the MVP conversation, you look at the prior candidates of Embiid won last year. Embiid was an amazing offensive player and had, depending on who you ask, varying levels of good to great to elite defense. Regardless, he had multiple things that he was bringing to the table that bolstered his case. Jokic, a completely transcendent offensive player. Luka, completely transcendent offensive player. You can say whatever you want about their defense, but they were doing the full package on offense. And when it comes to Shea, and I love Shea, I think Shea is a superstar. I think he is capable of being the number one option on a championship team. That's not up for debate to me. However, there are still some limitations to Shea's game. I think overall as a playmaker, while he has improved significantly over the course of his career as a playmaker and as a passer, he is still probably a bit more of a reactionary playmaker as opposed to you look at guys like Jokic and Luka and even Steph. If we're talking about the MVP discussion, those guys are very premeditated playmakers. They have a very concrete understanding of how to create unique passing angles and utilize their advantages before they even create the advantage in the first place. They're very cognizant of that. And Shea, I don't know if the game has slowed down enough for him yet to where he is on that level. It's entirely possible that he develops that more and more, and that comes over time. But it's not quite there yet when you're comparing him to the rest of the playing field. And then you look at his defense. I think Shea is a good defender, possibly even a great defender. I think he's shown some flashes of elite defense. He's one of the best shot blocking guards in the NBA. But I don't know if the combined package of his scoring, defense, and playmaking are enough to get him in the argument with Jokic, Luka, Steph, Embiid. He was top 5 last year. I could see him being maybe top 3 this year, but this year I don't think it's this. I don't think this is his year.
I do think there's an argument to be made that as versatility and like bringing multiple skill sets to the table becomes more and more prevalent in basketball, you can't be like elite at just one thing. And like, he's a pretty good defender. He's an all right enough playmaker, all right enough rebounder. He's an elite scorer, absolutely insanely talented scorer. But like, Jokic is an elite scorer and playmaker. Same for Luka. Embiid or Giannis are elite scorers, elite rebounders, elite defenders. And I'm trying to think, like, when's the last time someone won MVP that was elite at really only one thing and like just pretty good at everything else?
Fucking Allen Iverson.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, who wasn't like if there are 2K categories of every ability in basketball, you need to have an A+ in at least 2.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Whether that's fair or not, that just seems to be the case. And I think Shea's going to shock a lot of people with how good he is at so many different things this year. But I don't know if this is the year that he has multiple things reach that kind of elite threshold outside of scoring. I think no debate at this point. He is an elite scorer.
Yeah. With that being said, for this moment, eliminated from MVP contention. If you had to do it, is it going to go to Jokic or is it going to go to Luka? Because that appears to be our short list right now.
I think the Nuggets are going to be a top seed one way or the other, so Jokic is the safer bet. But I think, like, let's say the Nuggets were 1 and the Mavericks were 2, and they both put up their typical numbers. I think they might just give it to Luka just because it's something different.
Yeah. Got to give it to
the media has kind of been fiending for a Luka Doncic MVP for a while. They've been talking about it every year. They're like, is this the year Luka wins MVP?
Dude, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, literally from after his rookie year, people were like, is Luka potentially MVP?
Basically, as far as I know, that's basically been the case. So let's call it Luka Doncic. Fuck it. The way too early NBA MVP from the shooting.
I mean, if I had to like put the house on one of the two, I would go with Jokic because I'm very confident, unless injuries, the Nuggets are probably the 1 seed.
Yeah. My only question is, how much does Jokic end up getting the holy cow, the rest of this team is amazing? penalty, which I'm not saying he should or will get that penalty, but I will wonder how much that factors into the discussion.
I think the thing about the Nuggets is that individual player wise, like at best, like maybe Jamal Murray is a top 25 player. But like after that, like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. are very good and very impactful, but like they're not truly like, if we're comparing like Jason Tatum, for example, his 4 best teammates versus Jokic's 4 best teammates, in terms of just pure talent, like Jason Tatum's teammates are more talented. I just think every player on Denver is so perfectly fitted for Nikola Jokic's skill set that it elevates beyond their individual talents. But people aren't like going to go like Michael Porter Jr. is just too unfair, averaging 18 points, you know?
Yeah. So while Luka's going to win our way too early MVP award, because of time and super chat, we're going to go ahead and give Peyton Watson the way too early 6th man of the year. So thank you for your third super chat of the day, Timon. Appreciate the donation
real quick,
very much.
I want to say first, yes, thank you very much for the donation. I want to say something about Peyton Watson.
Oh.
I did not realize this. I thought Peyton Watson this whole time was a big. I thought he was like a power forward or like smaller kind of center kind of guy. Peyton Watson is a shooting guard.
What gave you the wrong impression? Is he just like massive or something?
Well, he's 6'8".
Okay. Yeah.
He's a 6'8" shooting guard.
Yeah.
Like what?
Awesome Tracy McGrady shit.
Yeah, Jinx, you owe me a soda or something. Yeah, Peyton Watson, 6th man of the year. You heard it here first from Timon. Shootaround
that kid
legend.
Rocks. He is so much fun to watch. Anyways, we'll get to the Q&As.
Yeah, but the TSA MVP is scheduled to completely obliterate my Grizzlies tonight. So that is unfortunate for me. The Grizzlies are in a bad spot. I personally think it's mostly because of our injury situation. Steven Adams is out for the whole year unexpectedly, mostly because we mismanaged his injury from last season. He should be healthy by now, but he had to wait several months to get the surgery he needed because they said it was going to be a 2 to 4 week injury at first, and now it's like a year and a half. But we already talked about this a little bit in the Twitter group chat. Shout out to Fast Break Breakfast again for contributing to this podcast via tweeting. But it said, when fully healthy, who wins, the Grizzlies starter or the Grizzlies injury report? Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Zy Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Xavier Tillman as the current starters. Whereas the injury report is Ja Morant, Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, and Steven Adams.
I'm going to go with the injury report team because it has Ja Morant. I think it's close.
I'm going to rescind what I said in the group chat. Initially, I was pretty adamant that the starters would win. That being said, after looking at it more and kind of thinking about fit and whatnot, neither of these teams fit well.
Yeah.
Overall, they are very stinky teams in terms of fit. Like Ja Morant, yeah, you've got some good spacing in Luke Kennard, and you can maybe convince me that Santi Aldama will do some good floor stretching in that regard. But like Brandon Clark and Steven Adams, that spacing is going to be rough. And, you know, Ja Morant is a guy who really thrives in spacing. But, I mean, he's proven that he can still be successful without it because he plays in lineups with Brandon Clark and Steven Adams all the time, and he's able to still be successful. So I'm not going to put a ton of stock into that. But regardless, the fit isn't perfect. But the starters, I mean, you can argue that Marcus Smart's like a good enough playmaker for this roster. Desmond Bane can do a little bit of complementary playmaking, but there's not really any, you know, table setting. The shot creation and the starters is pretty weak. Both these teams, just to me, have really, really glaring flaws. And Ja Morant's the best player here. And
I mean,
like that injury report team is good enough. I think it'd be a very, 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 very close game. That being said, I think the injury report would probably.
I mean, Luke Kennard is an S tier shooting guard, so you got to take that into factor.
Right.
Right.
You
Yes.
got to.
I forgot.
All right. Don't we got to get to this Bleacher Report shit? Isn't that what's next on the docket?
Yeah, because it's not next. The thing I was gonna say is that I'd rather talk about like NBA media meta shit, like what's happening with this ESPN post that went kind of viral for being misleading.
Yeah,
it's just a photoshopped video, if you can call it that. It's probably AI generated in some regard, of Dame from the bubble saying some stuff, but now they put him in a ESPN or with the ESPN microphone where it was Bleacher Report originally, and a Bucks jersey instead of the Bucks. Like, it's some really weird shit, and there was no disclaimer or anything like that. They just posted this raw dog like this is real.
That's super gross and weird, and I hate it.
It's just weird, and it's a heads up for how awful the media landscape is going to be with this technology.
Yeah,
and I hate it. That's all I have to say is that I hate it.
At the very least, if you want to be, benefit of the doubt towards this sort of behavior will at least raise awareness of AI and how you can use it to manipulate images and videos to be pretty misleading.
I'm sure that's what SportsCenter was going for, was a PSA.
right.
But also, really it was pretty obviously fake to me immediately, because I was like, yeah, this is footage from the bubble.
They got the big mic stand.
Look at the court and look at the mic that's like treating him like he's diseased, because he might be.
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely felt obvious, but it was still convincing enough to be alarming, Yeah. But the real meat and potatoes of what we want to react to in terms of sports media stuff is this Bleacher Report article that they always come out with every month or two, called 10 Trade Predictions for the Upcoming Season. We're going to react to this raw dog. I have not, that's 2 uses of raw dog in like 5 minutes. I should not have used that word again. But we're going to react to this live. We sincerely have not scouted this out at all. There could be a lot of great ideas, a lot of bad ideas, but we shall see as we try to observe it. Bulls won't tear it down, but obviously should. The proposed trade. Let's see. There's not like a simple graphic presented in here. That's misleading. They have enough talent to bottom out. So as long as
do they actually present any trades, or is it just like these teams should make a trade?
Yeah, let's scroll a little bit more, because if I've been clickbaited, I'm going to be pissed off, and in which case we will just not talk about it and just talk about how ridiculously misleading this is, because they're just like, yeah, maybe trade away Jeremy Grant, but not actually proposing a trade.
Trades?
No, historically they've been specific trades.
I think we've been clickbaited.
We've been clickbaited. All right, just like that.
All right, and
get it out of here.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, perfect. I didn't want to do it anyway. I don't know why I came up with that. And then one last segment before we get to the Q&A. We're going to look at the new courts for the play-in tournament. The NBA revealed today.
Not the play-in. No, the in-season.
Did I say play-in?
Tournament.
The in-season tournament. Yeah, there's just too many freaking tournaments. I get them all mixed up now.
Yeah, 2. It's a lot.
But we got this Hawks one and this sweet baby blue with gold accents. I like this one personally.
All of them have gold accents. That's not going to be unique to Atlanta.
Yeah, it says "lift as we fly" on the sideline
in all lowercase Times New Roman font.
Right, it's like that ugly ass jersey they came out with the all lowercase.
Yeah,
Times New Roman ATL.
I don't get what's with them in fucking lowercase. But whatever.
Nike ran out of ideas this year. Yeah, that's the bad tier. I like the blue though. Boston's
not bad. This one's fine.
Yeah, they got the 6 still on the court.
It's going to be pretty jarring seeing this, like, just the entirely, like, the floors are all colors.
Yep, every single one. Except for the Grizzlies for some reason, which, is kind of like the Nets, but we'll get there when we get there. Speaking of the Nets looking business as usual, honestly.
They already have a
not
court
that different.
Like that, so
yeah.
I can't stand it. Whatever. I don't like that court.
I don't like gray courts. Gray courts are weird.
Bad tier. I'm putting the Celtics in the good tier. I'm going to say that I approve of this green court personally. Are you going to veto me on that?
I like the Boston in the center. Like, it's not just the logo.
Yeah. Hornets have had some
I think this
questionable
is
and
pretty
cool
hard.
courts.
I
This
think
is
this
great.
is pretty hard.
The
I think
Hive is
this-
alive.
I
Say
like
what you will about the Hornets. They normally kill it with branding. They tend to do a pretty good job with like their color schemes and the branding. I think it generally looks pretty good.
Yeah. I'm going to put this in the good tier myself.
I like
Chicago
this one.
Bulls, seeing red. No sideline text, just Chicago, Chicago, written vertically with white
I like
logos
it
and a red
personally.
court.
It's just so jarring. That's
It's
really
going to
Well,
look weird on
I-
some TVs for sure.
I saw a photo. I don't know, someone photoshopped it, but it was this in an actual arena with like all the seats being red, and it looked very good. Like actually seeing it conceptualized and not just a flat image of what it will look like from a bird's eye view. Like ultimately, that will be the deciding factor.
yeah.
The Cavs went with a gold, I guess.
I think this one is pretty. I think they did a good balance between like not doing too much and also doing just enough to where it's not like comical. I think I've heard some criticisms about the land thing. I think it looks really good here in front of the trophy.
Yeah.
And the colors, I think it's not overbearing. It looks good.
Yeah, this will probably look the most natural on screen because it's the closest to a hardwood color. I'm going to put this in the good tier. The Mavs, another great court
Bad.
with some ugly ass fonts.
Yeah.
Easy
Bad.
bad tier.
Next.
Easy bad tier. This would have been okay if it was like the Dallas green, personally. I would have put it fringing onto the good tier, but
Maybe
with the
yeah.
gray on gray on gray, it looks horrible to me. Not like gray typically, but not in this context. We got the
Dude.
5280 Denver blue and yellow.
No one
court.
fucks with that. No one cares.
I like the colors. The 5280 is just that's where they lose me.
It's just who gives a shit about your area code, dog.
That's Jacob. That I got bad news for you.
Yeah, that's not
What
how
is
phone numbers
it?
work.
Not
It's for
area
the Mile
code.
High City.
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Feet in the air.
Yeah,
Yes, feet above sea
yeah,
level.
Mile in the air. Yeah.
Okay, put the little comma guy in there. So the little dash. So you know.
Yeah,
it's
that is a fair
5,000.
criticism. That is a fair criticism, actually. I agree. Bad. Detroit, another great court. Big
No,
red.
it's
I-
like
I
no
like
blue.
this one.
Where's the blue though? There needs to be a splash of blue.
Missed opportunity to make a teal court, man. Huge missed
I
opportunity.
hate the color teal, so I'm good on that.
Don't bring up your teal trauma on the podcast.
It is trauma related.
Yeah, bad tier. All these great courts are getting bad.
I like that one, honestly.
Really? All right, Alex, you're the swing vote. Good or bad?
I like the
It's
text for Detroit.
not bad. I don't think it's good though.
All right, this one's fine.
I just think it needed a splash of blue.
Need some blue. I agree. I'll straddle it in the mid tier. Warriors, another brown court, a little bit
The
darker than the
logo,
Cavs.
the logo looks like it's like it should pop more. It's like really.
Why didn't they make it blue?
Yeah.
Everyone's scared of blue. Also says San Francisco over here, which is a choice. I'm going bad personally. I don't like this one. It's
I
boring.
Will too.
Yeah,
I
I'd say
will
bad.
too.
H-Town, Houston
This one's
Rockets.
good.
I love
This
this
one's
one.
good. This
I
one's
like
really
this a
good.
lot.
It's carried by the font, but
It's carried by the
it's just
blue.
jarring.
I
The
like
blue,
the blue.
yes. Do you associate? I don't associate the Rockets with that blue. Like when I
No.
think of the blue when it comes to the Rockets, it's more of that dark navy or blue.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm talking about?
That's true. Like those
Mhm.
like late
The
'90s
font's
jerseys.
cool on this one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
But
that's the ones I'm thinking of.
definitively good tier, though. Good job, Houston Rockets design team or whatever. Whoa, this Pacers one is good. I like
I'm
this a
gonna-
lot.
What?
I'm a big fan of this super bright blue
Rudy,
and this
I'm
crazy
with you.
font in the middle. I think this
I'm-
is wacky in all the right ways.
My first thought was that they should blow up the arena. So clearly, we're not on the same page here. I don't like it at all. I do not like text that's meant to look like it's like a marker. I think that looks
That's
horrible.
fair.
I think it looks horrible on the jerseys as well. I could get behind this if it wasn't for the indie in that text in the center. Something else.
Now that you bring it up, I feel like my note to improve this would be kind of the opposite. It would be the font written on the sides should match that on the center court. It should all be handwritten. You know, don't half-ass it, but it's still good to me. Jacob, you say bad. Alex, you sincere about that being good?
I don't know if I would say it's like resoundingly good, but they did something cool. Like they tried something, and whether or not it works when they're actually playing, I personally like it, so I'll say good.
All right. Indy in-season tournament is good. The Clippers, another blue court with a deep blue accent and a
I feel
weird
like
font.
it's kind of hard to read the Clips part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say poorly designed, but a good attempt. I like the colors.
I gotta say,
this would be one of my favorites if the font was a little bit easier to read.
I gotta say, thank God they decided to not do jerseys for the tournament as a way to differentiate it, and they went with courts because God knows we didn't need to see 30 more Nike jerseys.
I do
That's
assume though. I assume that they will be using their
I think they'll wear.
jerseys.
I think they'll wear. Yeah, they're going to wear the city jerseys for this because like
they match.
A lot of them are matching. Yeah.
But are we putting this in the good tier or the mid tier? I'm personally feeling
Mid.
a little mid because I'm having mixed feelings.
I'm like mid.5.
All right. Well, mid skewing good. Good on you, Clips. Lakers, bright yellow gold, simple fonts.
Lakers shit just works, man.
Yeah, that purple and gold slaps.
And honestly, like specifically the trophy like really works with the Lakers because it's like kind of reminiscent of the old FedEx Forum.
Yeah, not FedEx Forum, Staples.
Isn't it FedEx? No, I'm thinking of like when it was called the Forum in the 80s.
Right. I know. Yeah,
it's like that circular arena.
Different venue, but yes. Yes.
Maybe it wasn't FedEx. I don't know what that is now that I'm saying it.
Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of, this is the Forum some nights. I like that we kept the asymmetry with the stripe on the one side, but otherwise bad. Horrible.
I will
say,
like
this at all.
I do like the thing at the bottom for like the.
It symbolizes the Mississippi River according to our branding.
Really, I just like that you can kind of see MEM in it. And I honestly liked their city jersey a lot more than a lot of other people did. I was like, I hate all of these city jerseys, but the Memphis one, it's not the first one I would look to give shit towards, and a lot of people jumped on that one.
Yeah. Still bad, though. I think we all agree. Heat. It's
an aggressive red,
gray in the middle.
Bad, though.
Yeah.
It's mid. It's mid.
Right.
It's a little good. It's mid.
I wish.
It's midpoint.
I wish the stripe down the center was like orange instead of gray.
Yeah. I think orange would work better good, here. Yeah. I agree. It's mid.5. Like it's definitely skewing positive, but I'm not willing to call it good.
Yeah.
The Bucks got a pretty good look to me. I like these really bright colors and the blue.
That green.
I like the court color. I like the primary court color. It's a nice tan. It looks natural, like regular wood. And then the colors are bright and exciting. I mean,
the point is that it's not wood, though. Like, why would you want it to look like wood if we're going for it to not look like wood?
I think the green will look better in game. And I love like these colors for the Bucks. I
personally just
teams when they do stuff like this.
I hate that shade of green a lot.
So are we putting this in good or mid, considering how strongly you disagree, Jacob?
My vote's on good.
My vote's on good too. So you're
whatever. I don't give a damn.
That's democracy, baby. Timberwolves with some nice baby blues. This goes hard.
It's going to look fantastic with their statement jerseys.
I'm going to say this is probably the best one.
Yeah,
it's up there for sure. This is probably the best. Yeah,
we'll see by the time we get to the end. For now, it's just a good tier. Pelicans, whoa, that looks like funnyjunk.com. Oh my god,
like Buzz Lightyear colors.
Yeah, I like the attempt. I like the black neon-ish Pelican logo, and maybe on screen it'll look good, but in this format, I hate it.
I have no respect for the attempt.
They tried something. I'm like, what? It didn't work, but they tried something.
Yeah,
right. But when you try something and it's bad, you go back to the drawing board. You don't just say "fuck it," we're submitting this assignment.
Yeah, New York looking pretty good with the orange court.
I think they have one of the best.
Yeah, this is right up there with the Pelicans.
And I think this is the case for their jerseys as well. I think if the white New York was just a little bit Like if the shadow effect was less over the top, if it was just brought down like 50%, it would look amazing.
Just like a natural drop shadow, not a doubling drop shadow.
Yeah.
So I think it'll look better in game when the cameras are angled lower.
Yeah.
So that's why I think generally it's good.
Yeah, definitely in the good tier at the very least, possibly the best. Your Thunder. Wow, this looks great to me. I love this. A little Oklahoma at the bottom, orange logo with the navy on top is really complimentary, and then it's a pleasant blue throughout.
I would have liked if the
I don't
orange.
dislike it.
I would have liked if the orange of the logo was used somewhere else so that it could tie back. Like maybe if even the text on the side was orange.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just wish they had made the OKC in the middle of the court. I wish they had made that white. Just like pure white.
I agree with that as well.
That would complete it. But otherwise, I think this one's good.
Yeah. A-. Magic. This is the best gray court.
Yeah,
best
I
gray
agree.
court.
The best gray court.
I'm big fan of this
mid plus for sure.
Mid plus.
This looks great.
A week good.
No, I think it's pretty good in general.
All right.
I'm willing to accept
our first
the
good gray court. A week good.
The gray works well enough.
Yeah.
It does. It does work. I like that. Good on you, Magic. 76ers, not going to lie, I think this goes pretty hard.
Yeah,
I
like
I think it's pretty dang good. This one's pretty dang good.
Maybe the best. This is one of the top 3 for sure.
Top 5.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, because this purple looks great. I like this, and that blue looks awesome.
I just do not like this.
It needs a splash of orange. I just needed a splash of orange.
Almost no orange.
It's too close to teal.
We'll put your teal by its side.
I can't. It's not something I can put aside. It's there.
Just out here hating on the Vancouver Grizzlies jerseys. I'm gonna say good personally.
Mid 0.5 for me. Mid 0.5.
All right. Mid tier it is because that appears to be the average. Trailblazers looking pretty good. Nice red court and in the middle. That's a mix up. Yeah. And then
I like the pattern.
Is that Argyle? Is that picnic blanket pattern?
It's supposed to, like, people in Portland be wearing fucking
it's
flannel.
It's like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it fits the vibe of the people.
Yeah.
Speaking of shirts, Alex, great shirt. Love the slam cover.
Thank
inspiration.
You. I bought this Thunder. The second I saw it. I was like, no hesitation. This is a cop instant.
Honestly, can you link me that? I might give you that.
Yeah, it's just on Slam Online, but yes.
Yeah.
The Sacramento Kings got a really dark gray court, which makes it feel more forgivable. I'm still gonna say mid though. I like this middle logo, but otherwise,
and the golden one having the yellow really makes it stick out, and like the more subtle the brand logo, the better for me, because I don't want to acknowledge the existence of those brands.
If they swapped the blue for King's purple, I would like it more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that pretty strongly, actually. So, mid for me, fellas.
Yeah, mid. I'd say mid.
I mean, they're going for, like, because they got the red at the bottom there as well, and the red in the eye. They're going for when they were
like the throwback.
Royals.
Yeah,
the Royals when they were blue and red. So I understand what they're going for.
Yeah. I like this green from the Spurs. Spurs have some of the best alternate branding, in my opinion, all around. Viva Spurs.
Well, I feel like the Spurs have the best alternate branding because otherwise it's just a black and white jersey. So, like, it sticks out.
Which, goes pretty hard. You see that K-pop group? We're all rocking the Wembanyama jerseys, which have the 6 patch on them for some reason.
No, I did not see that. But
shit goes hard.
I don't even know what this logo in the center is, but I like it.
Yeah, I think this one looks good. This is thumbs up from me.
I like the font on the text on the side as well, like very 70s feeling.
Easy top 5. Easy top 5. Raptors. All right, someone in the chat said they got the best gray court, and I think I agree.
Yeah,
this is pretty good.
I agree.
Deep dark gray with the dark gold looks really good. Super simple, but you don't need to complicate it for it to be good.
Even doubled up on the gray, and it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's the best gray court for sure. Shout out to whoever said that. I don't see it in the chat right now, but you know who you are. Utah with the double purple court.
So I'm gonna tell you what. If the middle stripe, that's like the darker shade of purple, if they just made that white instead of like a different shade of purple, this court might be the best one.
It works. I like it. I'd say it's good.
I don't
it's
think they
great, but
can.
it's
I
I don't
good.
still
think
think it's good.
I don't think they can do white because for all of these, the lining has all been white, like every single
No, yeah,
one.
I understand why they would have to make the lines black,
Yeah.
which isn't impossible, but
But it seems like if I guess all of them have like a thing that they have to have uniform, so I don't think the white
Right.
would have been plausible.
this one's still good to me, though. I think this one's
Good for sure. Good for sure. And last but not least, the Wizards with a nice teal stripe and a big gray everything else.
Capital One
Doesn't make sense.
Sticks out way too much. No history with this color scheme.
Yeah, I'm going bad, even though I
yeah.
like teal.
I would say bad.
Yes, finally some dunking on the teal jersey. Fuck teal.
All right, and let us know your favorite jerseys in the chat. If you're listening at home, be sure to tune into also Rusty Buckets so you can catch us live, so you can participate in this segment at the end of the show where we do a Q&A. Oh, don't know why we got that background going, but all right, there we go. A little chat overlay for you. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up some that I've pinned throughout. Jaywan said, Rudy, are you content punting on the year because our bigs are mid at best and are out for this season? No, I do not think the Grizzlies should punt this year. I still think Jaw's going to come back and we're going to be a contending level team. Even if it isn't like a strong contender, it's still a contender. And that's not any reason to blow it down and give Derrick Rose the keys. Let's see. Account several numbers says Magic are genuinely a better team than the Bulls after 2 years since the trade. Jacob, your thoughts?
I think there's a very real chance that's true.
Josh Rodriguez said Derek Lively will end the season as a top 5 center as a team.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
That's ridiculous. I
top
love Derek
10?
Lively. That's ridiculous.
Is top 10 feasible? Or
maybe top 15. Maybe top 15. I think top 15 is pretty attainable. Top 10 is, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
DJ said, I'm in a dynasty fantasy league. Should I trade Kessler for Lively? Who's getting more stats?
I would keep Walker.
Hold on.
Well,
it depends on how your scoring works in your league. Because points-wise, depending on how your league scores points, the amount of points that Derek Lively's going to get might outweigh the amount of blocks that Kessler's going to get. But in certain leagues, they weigh blocks so heavily that Kessler's blocks are going to be worth more than whatever Lively does scoring-wise.
Yeah.
So
check your league.
Basically use that as your metric.
Earlier, we were talking about stakes. Arto says,
Not a question.
Sucks. And I agree. I just wanted to point that out. A well-done meat as a child, but I'm an adult now. Derek Rose Highlight Factory, frequent chatter, says, is Monday the new day for Shootaround live streams? No, we will be back Thursday, probably with the hot takes pod. Or we react to
this one got delayed because I was moving.
Yep, and
this is a makeup pod.
Yep, compensating podcast like it always is.
You're welcome.
Yes. Someone on Twitter, according to Jimpy2, said watching Tyrese Maxey right now is how Warriors fans felt watching Steph in 2014, parentheses, after they traded away Monte Ellis.
I don't know about that, dog.
That's an interesting take. I don't
know about that.
And lastly, as far as saved chats, we got Jalen saying MVP is Ja Morant because the Grizzlies would be 3-0 with him. And sure, I agree. Why not?
To be fair, I didn't realize Maxey was playing this well. He's averaging 37 and 6 and 56% from 3 on 8 attempts a game over 3 games.
Yeah, he's been amazing. Yeah.
Let's see. Gogeta asked, should the Lakers be worried at all? Fellas, what's our temperature on
about
LA?
What?
About LA?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed in my opinion of them since the season started.
Yeah.
And then let's see, besides that, No, y'all ain't really dropping any gems in the chat right here at the buzzer. Butter says the Grizzlies under or over 29.5 wins. I'm smashing the over on that. But yeah. No chance that they get 30, less than 40 wins, honestly. With that being said, be sure to tune in Thursday. And if you're listening at home, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. And if you are watching after we're live on YouTube, leave a hot take for us to respond to in the comments. If you made it this deep into the podcast but can't come up with something to say in the comment section beneath the video, what are you doing? Just leave a little comment, and maybe you'll get featured Thursday or sometime after that. I don't know. We might change the schedule. But with that being said, good pod. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for everyone who came to the stream. Be sure to leave a like. Woo!